What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here alongside Josh Davis. Happy NFL trade deadline. Upon going live, we have 2 minutes left. And so we come to break down the final minutes of the NFL trade deadline and talk about moves that have already been made and a lot of moves that weren't made. A lot of those, fake Twitter reporters got people really riled up, including you and me, Josh. And sure enough, looks like they're not going to be making a move that is Philadelphia.
Yes, I know. Unfortunately, that is the case. It feels very appropriate. Happy Halloween to everybody out there. Kind of appropriate for this type of a scenario. Smoke and mirrors, what's happening, what's actually not happening, trick or treat action. But, it's interesting because, and I'm sure we'll see over the next couple days and even weeks perhaps of, the Eagles were this close to acquiring a Jaylen Johnson or, insert whatever player you want to. And we can jump into some of the big trades, namely the Montez Sweat and, of course, Chase Young. But it always happens. You get reports. There's reasons that certain reports get leaked, and there's reasons that others don't. It's a legit thing versus not. So there's a game of cat and mouse that goes on, as we know, and pretty much everybody realizes between GMs and what teams are trying to do. But the shocker, I think for all of us, whenever we saw it, was the Chase Young news. So if we want to jump in there, we can cover other details. But that to me, you don't like to see it because it's a team that you're competing with. Hypothetically, you're assuming we're going to play them potentially in the playoffs. They get a Chase Young for a third round. I'm curious to hear your take first of just immediate reactions. I saw your tweet, but just to hear it straight from you.
Well, listen, I think the first thing we must note is that Philadelphia did make a trade deadline move. It was a couple days ago. It was for Kevin Byard. And if they would have waited until today to make the Kevin Byard news, we'd all be saying, Howie pulled it off again. I can't believe it. And yet, because it's a couple of days ago, we look at what's happening right now, and we're getting a little bit of FOMO. So let's just be known. They did make two moves. They traded away Street to free up a roster spot for Cam Jurgens or Julio Jones, and they did get an all-pro safety that we would have absolutely gone nuts for had it been a couple days later, a.k.a. today during the NFL trade deadline. So that's first off. Second off, here's the deal with the Chase Young thing. Is it big for the 49ers? Yes. It's bigger than people realize because Nick Bosa's not having a very good season. We kept waiting for him to kind of do what Hassan Reddick eventually did for Philadelphia, and that was come into his own, 5, 6, 7 sacks. Bosa's been very quiet, so this feels like a move the Niners kind of needed to make because their pass rush is significantly less impactful when Bosa isn't at 15 sacks in a year, 16 sacks in a year, and they do understand the NFC goes through Philadelphia. At this point, if the Eagles beat the Cowboys on Sunday, the NFC will go through Philadelphia more likely than not. I know there's still a long way to go, but you get my point. And they got to find a way to break down the right and left tackle duo of Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, which, by the way, has held Chase Young in 2 games so far this season to 1 quarterback hit and 0 sacks. He's done nothing against Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata. So it's a nice move. I think Philadelphia maybe could have been interested for a third. I mean, come on, a third-round draft pick is not necessarily that much in the grand scheme of things. Going to the 49ers stinks, but in the end, this isn't the, I would say, game-changing move that's going to put them over the top against Philadelphia that a lot of Niner fans are going to pitch it as, mainly due to the fact that they still have Brock Purdy as their quarterback, and he's the main reason they will either win or lose come playoff time against Philadelphia.
I completely agree. Yes, that is the part that you can hold on to is that it is Brock Purdy, and as great as some people were making him out to be, you've seen the last couple of weeks of, possibly is there some regression or teams figuring him out, whatever the case may be. But yeah, there's not a major concern on my side. I posted it. You just mentioned it there too, but Lane Johnson and Mailata, I mean, you've already proven it. I mean, Lane Johnson going up against Nick Bosa in the NFC Championship game, injured as he was, held him in check completely. There was nothing that we saw from Nick Bosa. So you have that on one side. You have Jordan Mailata, who is the best, offensive lineman in the NFL, not even tackle, but grade-wise so far, which is incredible to say. But we've seen what he can do. And so, you get a guy like Chase Young, not that he won't make an impact because he's a good player. We're not saying that. But I agree. This team, Stoutland, the way that he schemes and plans with the O-line, I think pass blocking wise, you're going to be perfectly fine. You're not really worried too much about, they got a big name. Is this going to be better? Sure. Did they improve their defensive line? Yeah. But is it going to be a significant impact for the Eagles? No. Now, some lesser teams, sure, you may see some big games where they're going off and getting tons of sacks, and everybody's going to hype them up because get ready. It's as if it's not happening now. Wait until Chase Young has a couple sacks and the Niners route someone, and it's just going to be, here it is. The Niners are the best team in the NFL. So it may happen there, but I'm not too concerned. And I'm with you really too. I've heard back and forth on my channel. I'm sure you've gotten it quite a bit, but the Kevin Byard, it's like, that's the only move that's not, not too great, whatever. It's easy in the, what have you done for me now? Or even as the last couple hours to, get over amplified on this and be like, well, we didn't trade for anybody. We traded away Kentavious Street. We got a 6th
Yeah.
round draft pick, but that's it, really. So, I understand it's exciting, the potential of Jaylen Johnson, coming, adding to the cornerback room. We've seen what Bradbury's done or not done so far. But, for right now, I'm going to pump the brakes on it because Byard's only played 1 game. I appreciate that he took accountability and he's saying, hey, I get it, got to be better just because I've here for a short amount of time. That doesn't mean that I'm not subject to being better. But this team, I still want to see a couple more weeks before we say sound the alarms, because I know the one that just kept getting blasted is Bradbury, which people started referring to him as Burntberry. So, let's just hold off a little bit. I understand the frustration. You may not have gotten a major deal there, but in terms of, you're right, the NFC impact, Chase Young is good for the Niners. It does not make them cataclysmic so much further ahead than the Eagles, I don't think, in my opinion.
Well, let's just make a couple of things clear. One, it was going to take a lot for the Washington Commanders to trade away either Montez Sweat, who goes to the Bears for a second, or Chase Young, who goes to the Niners for a third. I mean, you're trading intra-division. It isn't like when Philly went and sent, the bones of Donovan McNabb over to Washington. This was, 2 very good players that the Washington Commanders would be sick if they gave to Philadelphia and then watch them win Super Bowls or just win the next couple of seasons in the head-to-head matchups against the Washington Commanders. So I'm not really surprised about that. Mm-hmm. Let's at least get into Jaylen Johnson for a second here. There were reports, Jordan Schultz at The Athletic said Philly was one of 4 of the big kind of final teams that are making a late push over the past couple of minutes to try to get Jaylen Johnson. In the end, Jaylen Johnson stays with the Chicago Bears. And the Bills, apparently, on a tweet I just read from Schultz, said were the team that was really making that final push. They instead pivot. They get Rasul Douglas for a 3rd-round draft pick and a 6th-round draft pick from the Green Bay Packers and shore up some cornerback issues that they had due to injuries earlier this season. I love the idea of Jaylen Johnson. I thought he was very likely for Philadelphia. He would have created some interesting dilemmas for Sean Desai, though, because he's strictly an outside cornerback. Slay's strictly an outside cornerback, and Bradbury can play the slot. We saw it earlier in a injury situation, but he's an outside cornerback. So you have 3 of them. Only 2 can be on the field at one time outside. Were you going to shift Bradbury inside and then put Johnson outside? Plus, I think the big kicker here, Jaylen Johnson wanted $15+ million a year, top 10 cornerback money at the end of this season. Do the Philadelphia Eagles want to give Jaylen Johnson $15+ million at the end of this season? Well, how good's Eli Ricks?
I don't know.
Eli Ricks looks pretty good right now. If you're talking about the next future of cornerbacks, you could get one in the 1st round for pennies on the dollar next year. Also have, what you have in Eli Ricks, maybe year 2 after playing a lot this season. It's just a lot to go ahead and pay for a guy who, yes, is fantastic, and yes, is 24 years old, but would want a contract extension at the end of this season. So there's no doubt Howie Roseman called. I'm 1,000,000% sure he was calling people. But I think the prices were a little bit too high. And with the recent success of the NFL draft with Philadelphia, you can't blame Howie for pocketing and keeping those draft picks instead of splurging on a player that may or may not make a big impact.
No, I totally agree. And honestly, too, just real quick, I'll shout out. Appreciate everyone watching. We're over 1,000 views simultaneously. If you haven't hit the like button, real quick, do us a favor, hit the like button for Howie Roseman. He was doing the best job that he could. He got Kevin Byard. I think beforehand, if all of us had said, "Oh, who is he gonna get?" We'll settle for a former All-Pro. So come on, that deserves a like right there. But I'm totally with you. I mean, I think if you look at it, and also there's a theory that I have, I can't prove this at all. It's just a complete theory, but you hear about rumors of reports and, why is something getting leaked versus not others? And Matt Lombardo was the one who had reported that Howie Roseman was making a push to get a pass rusher, an edge rusher. Now, I think that's legit. I don't think that he's not completely looking because Howie's going to leave no stone unturned.
Of course.
However, it was an interesting timing. And then you see a Chase Young go to the 49ers. My theory on that is that Howie perhaps reveals or lets it leak that, hey, I'm interested in a pass rusher because he knows Chase Young is on the move and hoping to bump up the price that you're going to have to pay for the Niners. Now, ultimately, did they have to? No, not really, because I think a 3rd-round pick is an absolute steal in the sense of the Niners are probably going to get a comp pick for him anyway if nothing works out. So it ends up being a good deal, but I think that just goes to show we'll probably get some stories or reports of how close the Eagles were to certain things or how he was really interested in players. But I just love the actual what Howie's doing on the trade deadline to be able to call and make these deals, because you kind of alluded to it there. I mean, all the GMs or good GMs know what's going on with a bunch of different teams. It's not like, oh, wow, this is a shock. Chase Young went to a, rival or potential rival here in the playoffs that we're going to play. He knew what was going on. So, he may have made some calls. It's not like you're going to say, let's not even see if it's a possibility. But then you also look at it, a division rival in the Commanders is never trading Chase Young to the Eagles. Even if they say, hey, we have a little bit of a better offer from the Eagles, I don't know how, in what world are we, like, in what world would we do that? Would we trade someone to the Commanders? Would we trade someone to Dallas? That's never happening. You're going to be like, no, you could go to a team possibly in NFC, but don't go to a division rival. So I don't know. It'll be interesting, but it's always, I always love the backstory once we get those extra reports and with the impact on that side.
I do think the biggest bummer of today that is not adding somebody is not getting rid of Derrick Barnett. I really was under the impression that Barnett was going to be let go. They were going to bump up the Nolan Smith reps and create a second roster spot because the street roster, or the street trade, frees up one roster spot, maybe Cam Jurgens this week. You need another roster spot for Julio Jones. Like, they're going to activate him to the roster and bring him over from the practice squad designation at some point, and getting rid of not only Street but also Barnett made the most sense to have those two spots available. I thought maybe Jordan Hicks was going to be a real possibility. Talked about it in my show, I guess yesterday. I would have loved to bring Simba home. I think he's playing at a great level right now and gives you just some extra depth at a linebacker spot. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of other options. They were never going to get Derrick Henry. There were other teams who were offering way more than Philadelphia was comfortable with Henry. Dallas was one of them. Thank goodness he didn't go to Dallas. Also, Baltimore was trying desperately to get to him. They were never going to get him. Justin Simmons went off the board as soon as you traded for Kevin Byard. And then once Chase Young and Montez Sweat were Washington Commanders, drafted years ago, that, like you said, guaranteed the fact they were never going to be Philadelphia Eagles. I'm more disappointed from an NFL fan base standpoint. Devontae Adams wasn't moved. I think the Raiders losing last night and looking as bad as they did, someone should have traded for Adams, or at least should have given Adams a chance to be traded. And I'm also really, really bummed that there wasn't any sort of move for a bigger name guy like an Aaron Donald. And I was kind of excited to see if someone would make a move for him. But what you did see is what we expected. Teams that went ahead and stayed put. Denver, right? Denver traded nobody, and they were supposed to be the hot team that sold everybody. They beat the Chiefs. They're 3-5. Hey, maybe a playoff run. And teams that lost, a.k.a. the Packers, a.k.a. the Vikings, who won but lost, obviously, their quarterback. And then the Commanders, who we beat into a pulp on Sunday, all of which were sellers. So it kind of went the way that you would expect it in the end. And I think we got to just understand that there isn't going to be a trade today. The rest of the way, we're 4-10 here, and Philadelphia got their moves done before the deadline in Kevin Byard, and honestly, probably a smart move because it might have made it a little bit cheaper for him than battling against other teams closer to the deadline. Let's go to a super chat, though, quickly. Ryan Grebe, 5. Shout out to Kenny Gainun to be an absolute dingus. Josh for using the reference LMFAO. Love you, bro. Yep. I was curious. There were some other running backs out there, maybe that weren't Derrick Henry, to swap in for Gainwell, but we have a guy named Rashad Penny who would be like adding a trade piece to the roster if you actually played him, but they don't want to do that, so, whatever it's going to be. We do want to mention that any super chat on today's live show, tomorrow's live show, and obviously during the Cowboy-Eagle broadcast we're going to do on both of our channels, get you signed up to a chance to win a signed autographed A.J. Brown mini helmet, and so Ryan Grebe is up in there. He gets 5 entries. $1 is 1 entry. 5 is 5 entries, and so on and so forth. Your dollar amount is your entry amount. We do this every single week. Gave away a Kelly Green jersey on Sunday to one lucky winner. This is the next one. Pretty cool. I mean, I kind of want this. A signed A.J. Brown, Mega John helmet. I mean, come on. This is not a better time for it. 5 entries in there for Ryan.
With the way he's been playing.
He's been absolutely.
I appreciate that, Ryan. Yeah,
fantastic.
Love you too, man. I had to use the gain none because as we do, as you mentioned, we got the live shows, we got the live stream during the games. And, there's too many great comments from there to not use. So you got people throwing out the gain none and, the mistake, the fumble, the DM and all that. So you had to use that. But going back to your point, I guess it kind of relates somewhat to gain none, players we want to see versus maybe not want to see on the field. But Derrick Barnett, I'm with you. It would have made some sense. Now, I'm sure that, he just couldn't get anything or enough for him in a sense of what Howie might have wanted for a Derrick Barnett. But it would have been nice to see Nolan out there. That I'm going to push for that anytime that we can. So to see the Rook get a little bit more playing time, obviously the Eagles, and Howie like to see Derrick Barnett, or at least from what they were going to be able to get. Barnett's been, better in run defense, not great, not insane, not through the roof numbers, and certainly nothing from the pass rush. But yeah, so far again, it's I would say overall, I mean, if you want to just take these last couple weeks, because I don't ever view the trade deadline in terms of like one day, I'd say Howie did a really good job. I'd say a B+. What else do you want? B+, A-? You could have made possibly some other deals, but overall, you look at the roster. Yeah, there's some weaknesses, but no team in the NFL, you can't point to a roster and tell me, oh, that team is rock solid everywhere. I wouldn't believe it. There's not a single team that I could look at and go, they're foolproof. I mean, heck, we saw it this past week you just mentioned, but the Kansas City, they lost to Denver. Who would have thought that was going to happen? And the way they lost, not only just like a, very close, but they did not look very good at all. Now, they didn't have Taylor Swift, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of teams that are trying to figure themselves out. I feel like we have a ton of pieces. You have a new addition in Kevin Byard. He looks like a captain. He sounds like a captain whenever he's interviewed. The communication and the mentorship too to Reed Blankenship. So overall, I would say Howie B+, A-, somewhere in that territory, did a great job over trade deadline.
Let us know what you guys think in terms of a trade deadline grade down below in the comment section right now. Again, for those upset, if I would have told you that the Eagles made no moves the past couple of weeks, and then today they signed Julio Jones, traded for Kevin Byard, and then got rid of Kentavious Street for a 6th-round draft pick, would you have been excited for that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
yes.
I think so. And then to tell you that Julio Jones caught a touchdown pass and Kevin Byard played every single snap just 4 days after being traded from a 2-win football team in Tennessee. Like, he did do some good moves. He did make some proper stuff. Are we bummed just due to the excitement factor? Sure. Chase Young and Kelly Green or Midnight Green would have been pretty darn funny for a 3rd-round draft pick. But again, when you have about $20+ million in cap space next year, think about a guy like Jaylen Johnson. There's a report from Josina Anderson that popped up while you were talking who basically just said that they are not going to extend him anytime soon. He will walk into free agency. You get Jaylen Johnson for money instead of draft picks and money next offseason if you really need him. So, take that for what you will.
Might as well
I echo the Jeff Mitchell super chat here, getting in on our signed to A.J. Brown mini helmet giveaway. 2 entries for $2 says, thank goodness Henry didn't go to Dallas. That is thumbs up that Henry did not go to Dallas. Not to say that the Cowboys are scaring me for Sunday. They're still a good football team, though. We have to respect the fact that they're good, and a Derrick Henry addition would have made them better. And the fact they didn't make any moves, they didn't get better at corner, they didn't get better at, obviously, running back is very, very good stuff. I agree with Jeff Mitchell here. 10 entries into our helmet giveaway from Not Your Typical Leo. He doesn't say anything, but I guess he just wants to get in on the helmet giveaway, and that's absolutely fine as well. Super chat for your chance to give it away during the broadcast Cowboys-Eagles that we both do on our channels. Every single Eagle game, basically. And Jason Blessings, 2 entries. F the Cowboys. Yes, it is still Cowboy Hate Week. I feel like we've gotten away a little bit, Josh, from the fact that it is Cowboy Hate Week because we've been focusing on the trade deadline. Now at least we get rid of all the speculation. And it's one of the worst parts of YouTube, but we both understand it. We can't predict what's going to happen, but we just read the reports that you guys read and then report on them. And I know people in comment sections the past few days have said, oh, is it true? Is it not true? Are you spreading false rumors? Guys, we're reporting on what we know, or what we've heard at least, and the fact that it's done now I think is best for all of us because the clickbaity titles and the fun expectations seems to be done and done for, and I'm pretty happy about that.
Yes, I agree. I'm right there with you, and we can move on to the Dallas hate. It being it's kind of the blessing and the curse of being in Dallas. You get to hear all the news, the speculation, the rumors, what they're saying about the team. But I am very much looking forward to it. The fact that it is Dallas week, and we're going to be broadcasting that game obviously on Sunday, America's Game of the Week. But that'll be fun. Also, shout out to Brandon Lisa, the JD and TM pod. Much love to you guys. Thanks for keeping us updated. Always go Birds. Go Birds. There you go.
There you go. Go Birds. We appreciate that. Let's just quickly, before we wrap up here, run through everything that happened during this, trade deadline week, and I'll throw that up on the screen right now. Here are all the trades. You can count them all up. There's over 10. We had about 12 of them last year, and so you see Chase Young to San Francisco, Montez Sweat to Chicago. It's interesting. The Bears have a lot of draft picks, so getting rid of a second is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, and Sweat has more sacks than the entire Bears front four, so I'm okay with that. I know there's some Bear fans saying that they didn't really, need to pay that high, but a second-round draft pick does not guarantee you a good pass rusher. It's very much a risk. You're getting a good pass rusher and Sweat there. Leonard Williams to Seattle is a very good signing. That one got overshadowed because it was yesterday, but that is a very, very good move, I would say, from Seattle, who right now, if the season ended today, would be your 3 seed, right? Because the Niners have lost 3 in a row. Yeah. Seattle has quarterback issues, but their defense is playing some really, really good football. Keep an eye on them. Byard to Philadelphia. We all got that done. Come on. That's going to be exciting. And then a couple of smaller ones. Ezra Cleveland, the offensive guard, goes to Jacksonville. Josh Dobbs goes to Minnesota. Donovan Peoples-Jones goes to Detroit. How about former Eagle Rasul Douglas? See, the guy who got obliterated by Megatron in Detroit on Thanksgiving a couple of years ago. He goes to Buffalo because he's good now. Kentavious Street to Atlanta. Mecole Hardman to Kansas City. Randy Gregory signed with San Francisco. And these are some of the older ones, right? J.C. Jackson, Chase Claypool, Van Jefferson, and Cam Akers. So out of all of these, biggest impact that you see, Josh, before we get to some super chats, what's the biggest one?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, man, out of all those there, I would say probably I might go with Leonard Williams. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
kind of
big.
back and
It's
forth
big.
because I think that Chase Young is going to do good. We opened with that, to not
Sure.
knock the whiners too much. I think that he will be good, but yeah, with the way that Seattle's kind of flying under the radar, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they've had some slip ups, but they've also been playing fairly well. If Geno somehow returns to last season's form and does a little bit better, then hey,
Yes.
maybe they're actually going to do something there. I don't think it's going to be an easy game when we have to go to Seattle, as everyone knows. It's been
No.
forever since we've won in Seattle. It's a very tough place to play. So, yeah, I'd probably out of all those, that may be the biggest. You could easily point to a quarterback in Josh Dobbs, but I mean, come on,
Maybe.
like, do we really expect it was a little bit shocking or somewhat surprising at the same time? If you're the Vikings, you're probably, I mean, you don't want to punt on the season because you've got some, you got
Right.
great defense or good defense that's playing well. And you've got some playmakers there. If Justin Jefferson comes back, but it was a very cheap deal for Josh Dobbs. So if he's able to keep your season alive and you somehow get into the playoffs, I guess you could argue a quarterback, but overall I'd say probably go with Leonard Williams.
I do want to say that the trades that didn't happen to me are bigger than the ones that we just showed you on our screen. Kansas City not getting a wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins rumors were floating around there. That's massive. And Dallas not getting Derrick Henry. I think two big things that could have really shifted the balance of power in both the AFC and the NFC not happening is good news for every single Eagle fan. I would give a big thumbs up for that. Let's get to some super chats here for our AJ Brown mini helmet signed giveaway. Eduardo Valencia, 20 entries in here. That's a great chance to win. There you go. You go Bird. Well, Bird.
Go Birds.
There's an A at the end there. Should be Go Birds, but we won't knock you on it. We appreciate that, though. Ryan Grape 5 more, he says, let's see. Geriatric Jones, the reference I encourage you guys to steal, is a death grip on the wallet. No way he's buying in on Henry. I'm surprised Dallas didn't pull the trigger. Jerry's not getting any younger, guys, and they're not good enough to beat Philadelphia in the playoffs. Now, Sunday's going to be a very interesting game, and we're going to broadcast it, but I'd be very, very interesting to see what the Cowboys look like, and if I was a Cowboy fan, I'd be disappointed today. Not your typical Leo, 2 entries. I missed saying something with the super chat, LOL. Well, there you go. Now you said something with the super chat, so you get 2 more entries. You don't have to say something to get the entries. It's obviously the super chat that does that. And Alex Murphy, too. PSA, we have Isaiah Rodgers next year. That is kind of the ace in the hole that we don't talk about because he doesn't really do anything for you right now. You can't use him because he's suspended. But yes, next year you get Isaiah Rodgers and you kind of have the nickel cornerback slot figured out, especially with Rick's playing it so well, Byard and Brown both being able to do it, and then Isaiah Rodgers, whose whole speciality is being a nickel cornerback. Matt V, he wants 5 entries. Just joined. IDK, what the subject is. Thanks, though, Thomas Mott, for all the info. You are the man. Thomas and Josh. But you got 5 entries, though, into, of course, our AJ Brown signed mini helmet giveaway happening a little bit later. So, okay, now we shift our focus to the Dallas Cowboys. There are going to be no trades for Philadelphia at the deadline this year. Byard is, of course, the move that we all are very excited about. So I encourage you guys to keep your heads up on that one. And now we focus in on what is going to be, it's a massive game. And we'll just leave it with this, Josh, a couple minutes here, and we'll go ahead and sign off. You beat Dallas on Sunday. The NFC is very much yours. It can change, wins and losses, sure. You lose at Dallas, though, it gets it gets a little interesting, right? The panic button gets pressed, I think, in Philadelphia. But if you beat Dallas on Sunday, we go a long way towards winning the NFC East and, of course, being a 1 seed in the NFC playoffs.
Yes, it's a massive game. You don't want to say anything's a must-win game, but to your point, yeah, you take that extra lead in the NFC, what we've seen get the separation from Dallas, not only in your own division, but like you say, with San Francisco, it's crucial. And as we saw last season, I mean, we were at the NFC Championship game. For those that were there, for those that experienced it, I mean, it's unlike anything else. You want that home field advantage. That's kind of a given, but you want that and to be able to solidify, kind of get an extra step, especially going into the bye week, being 8-1 with the remaining gauntlet of the schedule that you have coming up too. That's huge because then, you could probably afford to lose 2 games maybe during that slate. You got Kansas City, Buffalo, Dallas again, San Francisco. You could lose 2 of those and still be sitting right there and say, all right, we're still in the driver's seat. We could finish out first in the NFC. And that would be a fantastic place to be in because we know it's so much tougher to play in Philly than it would be going on the road. So big game. I think the line is negative or -3 for the Eagles. I think that's the last thing I saw. Yeah. So pretty close game predicted for Vegas there. You got the home field usually counting for the 3 points. So I'm very excited for it. Interested to see too, how does Jaylon recover from that knee injury?
Yes.
He had a little bit of a setback, it seemed like, because he had the hour worth of treatment after the game against the Commanders. There was certainly a noticeable limp. He didn't do much at all with the legs in the second half. So, you don't need him to run a ton. We've seen he's improved from the pocket. He was great last season, but improved this year from the pocket. It doesn't have to have that, but it would be nice, to hopefully he's relatively healthy. He can get better. You don't want him to get something major in the game against Dallas and then go into the bye week to, as best you can, get a little healthier. But this is a big game, no doubt.
Go to a couple more super chats. Make sure we get these in for our giveaway happening for the Cowboys-Eagles game. 2 more from Andrew Nathan, RPS. Could Howie look to free agency for an edge rusher? Yeah, there just isn't really one. I mean, Ndamukong Suh's out there. He's not an edge rusher, defensive tackle, and he's also pretty old. I mean, I felt like we kind of wrung that towel dry last season, and even though he provided some decent, effort on a couple of, games, I still think that he's kind of, washed a little bit there. So, no, I think the Eagles roster is what you see is what you get. And I think, honestly, you think about people coming back from injuries like Cam Jurgens, Justin Evans to add some more secondary depth. I think they're looking pretty good right now, regardless of the trades that they did not make today. Matt V with 5 here. And Josh, how do you feel about Bradbury? Looks about 3 years older. Secondary getting cooked by Howell is not acceptable. Bradbury, if you look at the advanced stats, he's playing well. If you look at the eye test, he's not. And that's the problem right now. Like, Slay played great on Sunday, but he had one play where he should have gotten burned for a touchdown, which would have changed a lot of stuff. So I agree, Bradbury looks a little bit older, but I also do want to mention they got torched by Howell twice, and yet Tua and the Dolphins couldn't do anything. And you're like, wait a second, is it just with the Commanders? Bieniemy and Howell seemingly had them figured out. Mike McDaniels couldn't. Tua couldn't. Tyreek Hill couldn't. Like, that was the game you should have been torched on. So if they hold Dallas to under 21 and they win this game on Sunday, and the secondary doesn't give up some massive CeeDee Lamb day, I think we're going to feel a lot better about the secondary as a whole. So I would agree here. Let's go Cheeto Bandito. He says, F the Cowboys, F Jerry Jones, F Joe Carter. I thought that said Jalen Carter for a second. I was about to say blasphemy, but it's Joe Carter. So there you go. 20 entries, though, Cheeto. There you go. That will definitely get you in.
Now. Let's go.
For your chance to win the signed A.J. Brown helmet. It's a perfect time to win a signed A.J. Brown mini helmet. Come on, that is like...
It is.
Now is the time to do it. He's absolutely balling out, so...
Oh, right, yeah. And I say, I got you down for the super chat. I was real quick, just to Matt's comment there. I agree with the whole, secondary. Bradbury's not been as good this season, and we know that.
True.
You could the analytics or the eye test. Now, the analytics say that he hasn't been as terrible as I think what we've seen.
Right.
The secondary, the pass defense, it needs to be a little better, at least a little better. But at the same time, too, you made a good point. I mean, it is against Sam Howell and Bieniemy. And there was a great deal, Honest NFL on Twitter. It does a really good job breaking down film, different coverages, alignments, how the teams play. And just to look at a Sean Desai defense and the way that they align is usually never a great matchup for an Andy Reid type of offense, which is what Bieniemy style runs. So,
right.
I think if we go up against those now, does that suggest that the Kansas City game might not be great? That's a little bit of a concern because we've seen what the Commanders have been able to do. And now you add, a Patrick Mahomes behind that instead of a Sam Howell.
Sure.
That'll be the true litmus test. You get burned there, then you're going, okay, you've given the teams the recipe for success of how did they beat the Eagles or at least, play very competitively and get the score. But to your point, not every team can do it because not every team plays the same. So it'll be interesting to see much further down the line, obviously coming out of the bye week. But I do think you'll see some adjustments, and that's the beauty of Desai. Unlike Gannon, he has shown the ability to make adjustments if something's not working. So I'm feeling all right. I'm feeling good where we're at with the trade deadline. I think the pieces, some guys will improve. We'll see some adjustments. And like you mentioned, you get some injury guys back as well.
Let's make sure we understand that, of course, Kevin Byard only had a couple of days in this defense. I think he can be a little better with a little bit more time, and he's been notably in his career a Dak Prescott cowboy killer. So thumbs up, excited for that. Kettner, 2 more here before we go ahead and log off. You can't spell Sam Howell without 2 L's. That's right, 2 L's. I mean, they were close L's. Sam Howell played really well. Don't know if it was his fault, but
they were very tough. Yeah,
they were very, very tough. So you get 2 entries there, Kettner, into our signed A.J. Brown mini helmet giveaway happening, obviously, during the broadcast. Now, let me just say something before we log off. If you like this show right now, tune in tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday Link Live. We do it every single Wednesday. We go for over an hour plus. We answer all your questions. We're going to break down more trade deadline stuff, get into Eagle injury news, Eagle injury updates. It's the best Eagles live show you can watch on YouTube. And it's not just because Josh and I host it. I think it's 100% true. So I would definitely encourage you guys to be subscribed with the notification bell and make sure you tune into that because it's always a bunch of fun. We love having you guys there. there, and a bunch of people join us for those lives, so definitely be sure to go ahead and check those out. All right, for Josh Davis, Thomas Mott, no trade deadline moves. The Eagles, though, still have the best record in the NFL, and we all can at least be excited about that. We'll see you guys in the next one. Go Birds.
Go Birds.